Is there a problem, ma'am?
Yeah, there's a problem.
These videos are not for children. If you are a children, then piss off.
Hey there, it's me, your least favorite YouTuber, Infuso. And today I'm here to talk about some of your least favorite moments from one of your all-time favorite shows, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Now before we get into this, let me state now, this is a part 1 in a 3-part series. Because while Buffy may have been a show that took risks, gave us some compelling storylines and character arcs, and created iconic fictional figures in pop culture history that were made even more legendary by both performance and writing, it's also a show that lasted 7 seasons, with 22 episodes in a season. So not everything was going to be a masterpiece. So these videos are just taking a look back at some of their disaster pieces. We can all acknowledge where the show was awesome, but today we're here to talk about where the show was awful. I'm also not going to be bringing up any behind-the-scenes conflicts or recent Wheaton drama. This is just a retrospective of sorts, highlighting some of the stranger creative decisions or on-screen mishaps that were all so prevalent in everyone's favorite vampire show. Stay through to the end of the video to see a special cameo from one of your favorite members of the Buffy cast. And now with all that out of the way, let's get into it. To me, what I think really plagued the series, and even to a lesser degree its spin-off show Angel, much earlier on was the action. Now, don't get me wrong here, there were some really fantastic fight scenes choreographed, and they looked great in all ways but one. Because more than in any other movie or TV show I've seen before and also after this, the stand-ins were super obvious and did more to take me out of the project than keep me invested in it. The replacements didn't have the same frames and figures that the actors and actresses they were supposed to be portraying had. And the wigs that they put on them were absolutely astoundingly awful. Try taking a look back at Buffy seasons 1 through 3 and Angel season 1 and not laugh. I dare ya! This should honestly be its own try not to laugh challenge. Except there will be no winners. Now there's an age-old trope called burying your gays, which I know a lot of people have issue with. It's basically to say that if there's a happy gay relationship, it needs to be broken up by tragedy and death. And while yes, it's become a little bit too common, especially 20 years ago, I will say that I don't think a character's sexual orientation should make them impervious to death. And vice versa, I don't think that it should immediately mean that the character's up on the chopping block. There's gotta be a nice medium to find there. So me saying what I'm about to say has nothing to do from a moral standpoint. I don't think it was a morally wrong decision, but I do, however, think that it was a creative mistake. The character of Tara was finally coming into her own, and she began to feel less like Willow's girlfriend, and more like her own person outside of Willow. It seemed like when the audience took an investment in her, she was killed off with little rhyme or reason. I think it's fair to say, and I think many people would agree with me, that Tara was taken off the show way too soon. And if her sudden absence from the show wasn't bad enough on its own, which it actually kinda was, it also led to a lot of other unfortunate events. Willow's heel turn at the heels of Tara's untimely passing just seems so out of character. Even in these dark times, I don't know that Dark Willow was necessary. And having her go rogue, albeit for all of 2 or 3 episodes, still did damage to her character that I don't think that she ever fully recovered from. This was not the way anyone wanted to see her character progress, and having her become the big bad toward the end of the season that lacked a big bad made the whole ordeal feel forced for a finale. Although I did enjoy the fact that they defeated her not by some big blowout or huge fight, but rather by reasoning with her and reminding her of who she was. That part was different, and I really enjoyed that. But still, this isn't a great way of showcasing the heart of the Scoobies. And in the end, it felt like the show didn't really know what to do with Willow following her trip to the dark side and back, because she just kind of became part of the background. She didn't have the same flair that she once did, she was no longer interesting. She was hardly even a character by that point. The show did eventually try to put a band-aid on its metaphoric broken limb, by pairing her with the new Slayer Kennedy, but that turned out to be more like pouring battery acid on a cut. If seeing Willow move on so soon after Tara's death wasn't disheartening enough, having her move on to someone she had absolutely nothing in common with and shared no chemistry with was a complete slap in the face. Kennedy just wasn't a likable enough character on her own in general. I mean, sure, over time she may have become something, but that was time the show was not afforded, as the show was running on the last few pieces of sand in its own hourglass. So, ultimately, with the very limited screen time she got and the very little we got to know about her, Kennedy just came off as some smug, cocky nobody with a bratty attitude. Not really ideal for the naturally peaceful and caring former wallflower. The two just didn't click, they didn't mesh well, and their dynamic was, well, non-existent. So is it any wonder that their relationship ended shortly thereafter in the follow-up comics? The show Buffy the Vampire Slayer was more often than not an allegory for growing up and fighting your own demons. Now, I know some of you listening may think, chill V, it's not that deep, man. But no, legitimately, that's what it was. The whole show is actually a creative comparison to real life and the issues that come with it. Except, it kind of over time expanded into being its own lore. Angel turning heel after swiping Buffy's V-card? That's a real thing that happens from time to time. Finding out that someone isn't as sweet as they presented themselves or as invested in you as they showed themselves to be, once they get what they want, that's a real thing.
It's a metaphor.
There's plenty more of them that work well, but I think I'll save that for a future video. There was a certain subliminal subtlety to them. But as you're about to find out, that wasn't always the case. When the show wasn't discreetly creating similes or lightly hinting at real-life issues, it was hammering you over the fucking head with the point. Like when Willow, the show's resident witch, got deeply involved with magic, and was getting it from shady sorcerers? Is that what you call them? She was shown going into bad parts of town, sketchy areas, to get her fix. The show depicted her as being discombobulated and stupefied whenever she overused magic. And they even openly referred to her being addicted to it. Do I really even need to say, what this was supposed to be? I'll be demonetized if I do, and it's redundant to even do so. It's right there in your face. There is no veil of mystery in front of this one. While there were many more examples of parables that worked on the show, this one felt way too daytime soapy for Buffy. Also, it seemed really out of place here. Magic was never portrayed this way on the show before. And now suddenly, midway through the second to last season of the show, we're gonna act like magic is a narcotic? Come on now. And after this arc, I don't believe that it was brought up again like this either, so clearly somebody on the writing team knew they goofed. Another great case of beating your point over the audience's head with a metaphoric club is the episode Beer Bad, which is considered by a lot of viewers of the show to be the absolute worst episode in the entire series run. The episode revolves around a heartbroken Buffy drowning her sorrows at a local bar with some upperclassmen. The beer, however, due to being mystified, turns Buffy and her new friends into Neanderthals. I'm not saying this just as an expression, they literally turn into fucking cavemen. Grunting brutes with very limited vocabularies and terrible hygiene. Yeah, again, not really a whole lot of room for discussion here. No one is confused by the message you're trying to send. Long story short, Beer Bad. The episode's entire plot and purpose, its whole concept, could begin and end with the episode's title. Guys, when you're binge watching the series, just go ahead and skip this episode. Read the title of it and you will have gotten the entire point. You're welcome. Right up there with my previous two mentions is Riley. Oh, Riley. You annoying, stale piece of white bread, for all the hate that you got in this series for not being Angel, the only crime you could have ever committed. It just, the hate doesn't seem fair. Am I saying he's a fantastic character? No. I don't think that there was anything wrong with him other than him not being able to fill out his predecessor's shoes. That is with the obvious exception of how the show chose to write him off. Riley and Buffy's relationship begins to hit turbulence, leading Riley to seek his thrills elsewhere, finding solace in a whole... am I even allowed to say that? I'm sorry. Let me try that again. Leading Riley to seek his thrills elsewhere, finding solace in a house of ill repute, where vampires would feast on his flesh. I mean... the guy is literally being sucked off at a brothel. Come on. You didn't even try to make that slightly vague. You have a complete misuse of John Ritter's time and energy. Love that guy and everything he was in. Not here, but in everything else. He plays Buffy's mother's new boyfriend, who is not exactly what he appears to be. While he presents himself as a nice, lovable, caring dude, in reality he's actually cold and aggressive. It's eventually revealed that he's not the man he made himself out to be. As a matter of fact, he's not even a man at all, but instead a machine. People aren't always who they appear. Got it. Yup. Good. Yup. Understand it. Again, a message that's well-intentioned, but, I don't know, kind of doofy in the final product. I think that the first season of the show is especially guilty of these types of ham-fisted way-of-the-world episodes. Because that's where things like Willow finding herself in a long-distance relationship with a cyber demon online... yeah. No, that's the thing. That happens. That was... Somebody wrote that. Somebody else okayed it. And then somebody else filmed it and directed it, and at no point did anybody go, yeah, I don't know, maybe that's a little bit too on the nose, and also really stupid. Now, granted, this is the first season of the show, so, it was really trying to find itself. So, you can give them a pass of sorts, but also, I'm here commenting on it, so not the full hall pass. We get it, guys, stranger danger. Not everyone is who they present themselves as over the internet. There's a certain anonymity to it all. So, next time you meet someone online, just remember, you could be flirting with Moloch the Corruptor. That same season, Xander finds himself in a fling with his much older teacher, who just so happens to be a giant praying mantis demon who intends on mating with him and then cutting his head off. Because she's a predator, and he's her prey. Yeah! In all seriousness, I actually almost like this one. Some thought was put into it, but in execution, it's kind of goofy. I just don't think this episode is taking a spot in anybody's top 10 Buffy episodes. Also that same season, Xander, once again, by the way, this guy had some terrible luck in the early years of Buffy. Xander would be possessed by the spirit of a demonic breed of hyena. By the way, that is directly from the Buffy wiki. I wanted to see how the fandom chose to word this synopsis, and that's how they did it. He was possessed by the spirit of a demonic breed of hyena. That is a sentence that somebody wrote and not only didn't cringe at, but didn't even wince. Anyway, so Xander and a group of his fellow classmates become hyenas. They tease and torture their weaker schoolmates for their own fun, picking them off to a degree, laughing and taking great enjoyment as they upset all those around them. The episode is clearly trying to make a correlation of school bullies to a pack of animals, with Xander becoming the leader of said pack. And this especially doesn't work because, not an animal expert here, but I'm pretty sure that hordes of hyenas usually have a female pack leader. So, swing and a miss, guys. I know that this was the early 2000s, but Google was still very much a thing. It would have taken you all of 15 minutes, maybe 25 due to dial-up, I don't know, to get that right, and you did not have the time to do that. There are plenty of other problems outside the obvious attempts at fictionalizing unfortunate facts, like, this one's gonna hurt, hold on. Alright, let me say this now, before I get into this. Angel is one of my all-time favorite characters. And David Boreanaz, because of his time in the role, has become one of my all-time favorite actors. I liked Angel so much back in the day because I was first introduced to the character in the show Angel, and then years later I went back to watch Buffy to figure out what it was I missed. And in doing that, it's given me such an odd relationship with this character because it's almost really hard to like him. I still do, because again, he's not real. And it's less egregious when it's not a real thing. But I think I need to, in some way, shape, or form, acknowledge the way the show presents the character is a bit, creepy. It's just a little hard to see Angel as this tortured hero he was clearly meant to be, when remembering that he was 241 years old when he began dating Buffy, who was a 15-year-old. The man was dating a chick 226 years his junior. Now, I know what you're gonna say. But V, he's a vampire. It's different. That's not how that works. He's how old he was when he was turned. But first off, nah. No, that argument has never made sense to me. Because as long as he's still living, even if he is the living dead, he is still emotionally and mentally maturing over time. Even if his body stays the same, he's still a full-grown man with 2 centuries and 4 decades life experience that this practically prepubescent girl doesn't have. It's fucking weird. It's creepy. I'm uncomfortable. But let's stop the clock, like Angel allegedly had. Let's use that argument that Angel was really just however old he was when he was first bitten, and he remained that age for the next 200 and something years. It is later revealed that Angel was turned by Darla when he was about 26. 26 years old. He would still be a full-grown adult dating a sophomore in high school.
What? 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 What?
And that's especially uncomfortable for me because I knew a couple guys like that when I went to high school. And that's just, it's unsettling. He still has over a decade on her. And here's the thing. The show doesn't seem to be aware of this. They barely make any mention of it, like, throughout both series. It is never depicted as being a problem. It's just the thing. And we're supposed to get behind it. But here's the crazier thing. Many people did.
Angel's Romeo. That's the grandest love story I will ever tell.
Now hear me out. I'm not knocking the show or the fan base. Most of us were really young when watching this, so things like this went over our heads. When you're younger, age is entirely lost on you. Think of how many movies from our childhood start 30-something-year-olds playing high school students. I remember not having any concept of age other than adult kid. I didn't know how old these people on my screen were, I just knew that they were way older than me. They could have been 25 or 46, and I would have known the difference. So when most people saw Angel and Buffy, and they were in their teens or maybe even younger, with the show not making any real mention to their age difference, who would have really even known the difference?
They cast people in their late 20s, early 30s to play us.
If they weren't bringing it to our attention, why would it raise any alarms for any of us, you know? Especially considering how great the initial chemistry between Sarah Michelle Gellar and David Boreanaz was. But holy shit, yeah, this is weird. And more than likely wouldn't, and couldn't, and shouldn't be done today. I'm not saying the show needs to be shamed, or that we should make Angel go the route of Pepe Le Pew. But why has no one at least spoken up about this and been like, oh yeah, you know, that was kind of fucking strange, wasn't it? Was that maybe not the best call? Could have been done differently. Could have been done differently. It wasn't, and that's why we're here. But maybe it should have been. Also, side note, there's a flashback episode in which we see that Angel was watching Buffy from when she was even younger than that, so that is just deeply unsettling. And for the final mention on this non-list list, I went to Cameo to ask your favorite vampire, and mine, James Marston.
Wrong!
I said James Marston because despite James Marsters being one of my all-time favorite actors, I still to this day constantly fuck up his name because it sounds so similar to this other actor's name, James Marston. And I trade the two names back and forth because every time I say I have a 50-50 shot of getting it right. Unfortunately, I also have a 50-50 shot of getting it wrong like I did just there before. Thank God for editing and post. So forgive me, we're not talking about James Marston. Cyclops could go screw himself. Back to Brainiac. So as I was attempting to say, James Marsters, the man who played Spike, what he felt some of the worst or weirdest moments were from his time with the series. And he offered up a very real response, and gave what I felt was complete transparency and, more importantly, insight. Take a look for yourself.
Hey, Infuso, this is James. Great question, man. I'd have to go back and watch Buffy again. I'm sure that there would be moments that would make me cringe watching it now in 2021, 20 years after. I think probably any movie or television show, almost any, that was made 20 years ago would have things in it now that we would find unacceptable. I think that it's hard for me to judge those moments because they were made in the time that they were made. We all teach each other what is acceptable and what is true together as a society. And we help each other realize that certain behaviors or certain ways of referring to people are not good. And we help each other overcome our blindness. I like to think sometimes, what are the things that the current generation will be judged for in 20 to 50 years? What are the things people in 50, 70 years will look back, or 100 years, look back on our behavior right now and just say, oh my God, they're savages. There was that one episode in Seeing Red in the bathroom where Spike almost Buffy. And I would say that's the one that at the time I thought was a mistake. What I'll say about this, though, is that the writing of Buffy is so good because the writers are coming up with their worst day, their personal worst day, the day that they don't talk to anyone about, the day that keeps them up at night when they really got hurt by someone or when they really hurt someone. And then they slapped fangs on top of that dark secret and told the world. And it is a act of sustained vulnerability and courage from the writers. And it keeps Buffy from being preachy. Buffy's got a great theme, which is don't give up. The world hurts, but keep going. It's a great theme, but it can be cloying if you do it wrong. But because of the way they were doing it, it's not really a show by a bunch of Hollywood people telling other people how to live their lives. It's just human beings saying, hey man, this hurt me. This was really rough. This sucked. Am I alone? Is there anyone else out there who went through anything similar? I think that's why it connects like it does. And in this instance, for Seeing Red, the idea came from a female writer on the staff who in college got broken up with by her boyfriend. And she went to his home thinking if they made love one more time, that everything would be fixed. And she was wrong. And she really threw herself on him, and her ex-boyfriend had to physically get her away and out the door. And this was just crushing to her. When the script came out, I was really upset. I don't like scenes like that. I don't watch movies with scenes like that in them if I know. If I'm watching a movie and a scene like that comes up, I will leave. If I'm watching television, I will turn it off if I see something like that. It's just too upsetting for me, just because of my own personal, my childhood, frankly. If there's an audition with that kind of thing in it, I don't audition for it. I pass up the job if I'm offered a job with anything close to that. And I remember saying to a writer as I was going on stage to film that scene, you know, sometimes you don't understand the cost of what you're putting us actors through. I think they thought that they could switch the sexes from the original story from the writer and have a man do that to a woman, because Buffy is a superhero and she absolutely can just throw Spike through a wall, literally, to protect herself. My feeling is that, you know, everyone who watches Buffy is Buffy. That's the vicarious experience of storytelling. And so I'm going to be doing this to the audience who are not superheroes. There's going to be an effect that I don't know if you guys are thinking about. It was the worst day of my professional career. I can't even, oh God, it was so bad. The thing was, though, that the writers were trying to remind the audience that Spike was not ready for Buffy. He was evil. He had no soul. He was a damn vampire. And he was the wrong damn boyfriend for her. And they kept trying to get the audience to accept that, and the audience kept coming back saying, no, we love Spike. We want her with him. He's cute. This was very frustrating, because the whole point of the show is that vampires and demons are just metaphors for the challenges you have to overcome when you're growing up. And you're not supposed to... Vampires are supposed to be killed off. They're supposed to be defeated. And so they kept pushing the envelope and having Spike doing more, worse and worse things. And they finally, none of them worked. And they finally got to that scene. They felt like they had to go that far to make their point. So in retrospect, I don't know if I understand that it's worthy what they did. I know it was very painful for me and for a lot of people who watched the show. But looking back on it, I'm not sure that I wish that they hadn't done it. Buffy took risks. Buffy was not afraid for the audience to get angry or afraid. Buffy wanted to give the audience a full roller coaster, up and down. Wasn't interested in a flat, boring ride. So that's my answer, buddy. It's a long, long, long video. Bye-bye.
Now, I did chop that cameo up just to better fit the video, but I will also be uploading his answer in full at the end of the month to the channel. You know, just to make sure that my edits didn't somehow misconstrue the message he was trying to get across, or I didn't somehow take his words out of context. James, if you happen to see this, I thank you again for your honest reply. And to all the degenerates watching, why not head on over to his cameo page and get a video from the man himself? And you know, if you have enough characters to use in that little section, don't forget to let him know I sent you. He seems to be a really nice guy and is relatively cheap for a man of his talents and resume, so get at him. No, not get at him. I don't know. There's no Adam. Get at him. Anyway, with that being said, that is the first of the worst. And if you're looking forward to the next installment, spread this video around like it was vampirism. Show this to the buffers or whatever they call themselves that you know, and leave a comment in the comment section below with the phrase, "We want the next big bad." And there's a lot more where that came from too. There's still a whole bunch of bad that we didn't even come close to covering. This video hasn't even scratched the surface of just how strange this series gets. In the meantime, I was your least favorite YouTuber, Infuso. You all are the degenerates, and I thank you for joining me. Hope to see you in the next one.
I am vengeance. I am the night, and that was Infuso. Just remember, if you're not tuning in, then you're missing out.
So, if you like the words that came out of his mouth hole, and you too would like to become a V-generate, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, nerds!
Catch him next time. Same bat time. Same bat channel.